Hi, and welcome back to Smart Property Systems Training. In this video, we're going to go over the tenant portal. We're going to cover this from start to finish. So this will be a good introduction to the tenant portal for new tenants. It will cover how to actually sign up your account. We'll cover the landlord portion of that, and then we'll go over the different features. Okay, so to start with, tenants can only have an account within Smart Property Systems if they've been invited to connect by their landlord. Landlords generally will do this when they set up a lease. So we'll go to the leases section. And again, generally when you first set up the lease, you're going to invite the tenant. I'm going to go into this particular lease. We've already set up all the rent and everything that's due. And we're going to go to the invitation. We've set up the tenant, entered the tenant information, the tenant email address, and so forth. And then I'm going to go to invitations. And again, if you've already invited the tenant, you're going to see that it says already invited. Because again, this is generally done in the initial setup of the lease. Okay, so let's say you've already invited your tenant, but they say they never received the email. What you can do at this point, from within the lease, you can't do anything because it says you've already invited it. At this point, you actually have to go, exit out of the lease section, and go to the tenants menu. From the tenants menu, this will show all the tenants that you have active and who has been invited and who has accepted the invitation. You can see when we first set up that invitation, when we created the lease, it shows pending here. If we hadn't set them up that way, we would have a box to actually click and send an invitation. But it shows pending. We can now click invite again, which will resend the email to the tenant because they never received it the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and click invite again. So the two different ways that you can invite a tenant are in the lease when you initially set it up, or after you've set up the lease, you can go to the tenants menu and select send an invitation at this point. And that's it from the landlord side. What we're going to cover now is the email that the tenant receives and the process that a tenant has to go through to set up their account. So I'm going to go ahead and log out of my landlord account, and that'll take me back to the main menu. Now I'm going to pretend I'm the tenant getting the email for the first time. I'm going to go to my email. And you can see here I've got the email from Smart Property Systems. Now, if it doesn't show up here, you want to look in your spam folders. Okay, a lot of times email from different websites will go to a spam folder as opposed to going to your inbox. So if you don't see it here, check your spam folder. Alright, but it is here, so we're going to go ahead and click on it. And you get a chance to see what the invitation looks like. It's pretty basic. Dear tenant name, in this case it's Demo, Joe Smith has requested to connect to you via Smart Property Systems. If Joe is your landlord, follow the link below to connect with them. Okay, you want to click this link only once. Alright, so clicking this link will actually open up a window that allows you to create your account in Smart Property Systems. It's going to pre-fill in your name, pre-fill in your email address. Don't want to change any of that. You want to create a password that you will remember. And then it's important to scroll down if it doesn't all fit on one screen and click the I agree to the terms stated above. Definitely go through and read those to understand what you're agreeing to, and then click continue. Okay, that's it. That takes you to the tenant interface. From here, we're going to cover the process of what the tenant interface looks like. Alright, I'm going to actually log out of here because I want to cover the logging in as a tenant one more time. So I'm going to log out. I'm going to actually close these windows now. And I'm going to go to the main screen. Make this just a little bit bigger here. Okay, from the smartpropertysystems.com, and this is a review. We do have a tutorial on how to log into the system. But as a tenant, as a new tenant, you go to smartpropertysystems.com. You can also specify /tenant to go directly to the tenant landlord. Tenant login, excuse me. You can click on login as well. This is the landlord only login. So if you're a tenant logging into the system, you cannot log in here. You have to click on tenant login. All right, now you want to enter in the email address that you initially set up your account with. So that was demo sps tenant at gmail.com, and then the password that you just set up when you set up your account. And then click login, or click sign in, excuse me. That will take you to the screen we saw a few minutes ago on the tenant interface. Okay, from here we're going to cover the different features. The first page you come to is going to be a summary screen that tells you when your next rent is due, how much is due, what your late fee is, when your rent is considered late, what the term of your rent is, or your lease is. In this case, it's 1 year from June 1st to May 31st. What type it is, whether it's month to month, and then who your landlord is. A couple other things you can get to from the tenant home screen is if you have any messages from your landlord and if there's been any maintenance requests. We'll cover those in a little bit, and in a different video we're just going to cover briefly here. So if your landlord sent you a message, there'll be something here, and if you have a maintenance request pending. Alright, the second screen is your rent payment screen. This is where you will go to review your information, review your rent history, see what's pending, see what's due, make online payments, and so forth. This is the meat of the tenant system, where you can actually review your rent and pay your rent. So this is the first time we've logged in, so it's going to show us what our rent is. Any deposits that are due will show here as well. So we have a security deposit of $800 due. We also have a month-to-month fee for parking. So everything that's due will show here. If you've got a past due amount, that will show. It will show if you've scheduled any payments, and then the remaining due. So this is a summary screen of what is currently due for rent. You can also see under account activity, this is for the current month of June. It's always going to default to whatever the current month is. Since we are past May 1st, and today's date is actually May 2nd, it's going to default to the next month, which is June. You can go back and look at any previous months that you might have had payments for. So if I go into May, it takes a second to refresh, you'll see there was nothing because this lease has been set up to start on June. If I've made any scheduled payments, if I've canceled any payments, those will all show within the account activity screen. Clicking all activity will show everything, any payments I've made, any payments I've canceled, any payments that are scheduled. They will all show at this point. Okay, so let's go back into June to see the information. Okay, so rent's due, security deposits due, and a parking fee. Again, the lease overview is also here. This is the same information that you saw on the initial home screen. Right, we cover setting up rent payments in another video, so I'm not going to go into that here. The other two features that you can get to here is your message inbox. This is a messaging place for communication directly to the landlord. So if you want to bypass just sending an email, you can actually come in here and click send a message to your landlord. Your landlord will get an email that said you have sent them a private message, plus they'll be able to log into their interface and see that message. Same from the landlord. If the landlord wants to send a message to make sure you get it, he can send a message through the interface. You'll get an email that says you've got a message from your landlord, and then you can log in and that message will be here. You can view your sent messages as well, any messages that you have sent. You can also, and the final feature we'll cover on the main tabs, is the maintenance requests. You've got a leaky roof. You want to let your landlord know about it. You can come in here and send a maintenance request. Give it a title, what the priority is, the information, and click send. That again will send a message to your landlord that you have a maintenance request that's pending. Now we're going to cover then, again, sending maintenance requests in another item. I'm just covering this in another video. I'm just covering this here just to give you a brief overview of what the tenant screen will do. You also have your account tab here where you can change your password. If you've got a bank set up, you can change your bank information, set up payments, and so forth. You want to change your time zone. But again, mostly if you want to change your email address or change your password, so your login or your password, you're going to do it in the My Account section. So that's it. That's a brief overview of the tenant interface within Smart Property Systems. Again, we do have tenant training specific for the other features within the tenant interface, but hopefully this introduction gave you an idea of what the tenant interface can give you in Smart Property Systems.